Good morning.
Morning.
Would you state your name, please?
Bill Bona.
Okay. And Mr. Bona, do you know David Swift?
I do.
Do you see him here in the courtroom today?
I do.
Okay. And where is he?
Here.
Sitting at the defense table?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you also know Karen Swift?
I did.
Okay. Tell me how you knew Mr. Swift and Mrs. Swift.
I met him through my wife, met Karen through my wife, and the same way with David.
Okay. How long did you know the two of them?
Probably 6 months. I mean, I knew of them, and I really wasn't close to them or hadn't met them. Probably 6, 8 months.
Okay. Do you recall attending a Christmas party in which you and Mr. Swift sat near one another and had a conversation?
Yes.
Do you recall that conversation?
It was really, more me listening, but it was just an uncomfortable conversation. I mean, he kind of told me his life story, and everything was, it was uncomfortable for me. Everything was how people didn't give him a chance and take him seriously, and he overcame that through music and other things, so.
Hold on just a second, sir. Go ahead.
Your Honor, we are going to establish that there was a pattern of behavior by Mr. Swift, and this was just 6 to 8 months prior to.
Okay. Why don't we let the jury go to the jury room and let's deal with this, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to let you go to the jury room. Don't discuss the case, please.
All right.
All right, let's be seated. Whoa, I came over there. Objection. The basis of the objection is relevance. The court's got to understand context, timing, and how material this is in order to sort this out. Mr. Taylor, you agree with that? Do you agree with what I'm saying? Yes, sir. I'm asking you if I'm on the right track in my analysis, I guess.
Can I say one thing? Can I ask the witness while we're having a discussion about it?
Well, I anticipate that there's going to have to be an offer of proof in the matter. So,
Actually, I don't have many more questions in that area to ask Mr. Bona, but I can explain to you why.
are you going to ask him about the details of the conversation?
Yes.
Okay.
Judge, this is 6 months before.
I mean, he said that, but there's no proof at this moment about that or the content of the conversation.
And the prosecutor's trying to talk about stories from the past of Mr. Bona and Mr. Swift. I mean, this trial will be like 5 weeks long. I mean, the relevance as to what happened on these events.
I can explain the relevance, Your Honor, but I don't know if you want me to do that.
I understand the objection. What I need to understand now is what's the testimony that you want the jury to hear?
Yes, sir. Okay, let me go ahead and ask
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Bona. Okay. Mr. Bona, did you have a conversation with Mr. Swift at a Christmas party?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me some of the things that he told you in that conversation.
What I can remember about it is that I was just uncomfortable. It was a lot. Like I said, I remember something about going to college or after high school and being in a musical person and people not giving him a chance and not believing in him, and he proved them all wrong. And that was kind of the scope of a couple other little stories. I really wasn't a conversation. It was me listening, and I just remember when we left and when we got home to discuss with my wife, I said I was really uncomfortable. And
Did he talk to you about his childhood?
I don't remember anything about his young child or anything. I mean, I think most of the things I remember was about high school and college he was telling me about, but that's, you know.
Okay. Your Honor, then I don't have to ask for questions. I can move on from that.
Well, here's the thing.
There are going to be issues at a later time that are going to talk about things in the past.
The objection is going to be sustained at this moment. Court finds that the testimony is not relevant to the issues at trial at this time. Obviously, that may change as we go forward.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ready to bring jury back in?
Yes, sir.
All right.
All rise.
All right, let's be seated. All right, General, you can go ahead.
Mr. Bona, did Karen Swift come to your house very often?
She came over on the weekends and maybe during the week once or so, from what I remember, you know.
Okay. When she did come by the house, what type things would y'all typically do?
Well, I would say most of the time I wasn't there. I mean, I know her and my wife, you know, dished up the kids and they went to parks and they went to Reelfoot Lake. But I mean, if I was there, then they were just having conversation, you know, as far as anything I remember, you know, it's just getting together and having conversation like women do. And sometimes I would sit with them, sometimes I'd have other things to do, but.
Okay. Were there other people there typically, or was it usually just?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it may be another girlfriend or two, you know.
Okay. Just typical conversation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did Miss Swift ever come over to the house late at night after she had put the kids in bed and then come over late?
I don't remember anything like that. I mean, I'm in bed pretty early myself most of the time, so, but I don't remember anything like that.
Okay. Do you know what time typically Miss Swift would leave when she did come over to visit? And let's say throughout the week, on a weekday.
I would say before midnight, you know, 11, 12 o'clock. I mean, that's really kind of a late hour for us, but I would say I don't ever remember it being any later than that.
Okay. Did you ever host parties that David Swift and Karen Swift attended?
We had one get together for Kathy's 40th birthday party that they were invited to. Yes.
Okay. And how many people were at that party? Just an estimate.
At the farms, there was probably 20 or 30 couples, maybe 15, 20 couples that we had some dinner and music at the farms.
Okay, so it wasn't actually at your home. The party.
No, not to start with. Maybe 5 or 8 couples came back to the house afterwards, you know.
Okay.
But not, you know, it was at the farms to begin with.
Okay. What'd you do when you came back to the house?
Just had conversation and hung out, you know.
Okay. Do you have a hot tub?
We did there, yes.
Okay. Did people get inside the hot tub?
Yeah, some people did, yeah.
Okay. Do you remember who got inside the hot tub? Do you remember if Mr. Swift got inside the hot tub?
No, I don't. I don't remember
Okay.
who exactly. I mean, I know my wife got in at some point, and I was sitting with her, but no, I don't.
Do you know if Miss Swift was in the hot tub?
I would say she was, yes. I mean, I don't remember specifically seeing her, but if she enjoyed getting in the hot tub when she came over, in the wintertime when it was cold, so I'm sure she was.
Okay. Do you remember how people were dressed?
Oh, it was, the people in the hot tub were dressed to be in the hot tub, and then the, people outside, it was cool. It was still early in the spring, so.
Okay. Did anyone have no clothes on in the hot tub?
I would say probably, yes. Maybe it did, but of course, you can't see through the water in the hot tub or anything else, so it didn't it was anything that I would, to see when you're sitting in there submerged, but.
Okay. Did anything happen later that night?
Well, when the party was all getting done, when everybody was generally starting to leave and say their goodbyes, I went through the front room, just letting everybody leave and everything in our house, and Miss Swift was there. She was laying on the couch, and she didn't have anything on. She was about asleep. So I kind of said, hey, it's time to go. And at that point in time, one of her friends was coming in from behind me, and I said, well, let me get you a towel, or get her a towel. She didn't, I didn't see her clothes there close, and said, let me go tell David to come get her. Everybody's leaving. He needs to come get her and move on.
And who was the friend that came in? Do you remember?
It was Rob and Alfred, I think. Yeah.
Did she make any statements to you about what are you doing or anything like that?
No, not to me at the time, no.
Okay. Was your wife near?
She came in afterwards. I think when I walked back through, she was in the room right next door and right there too. And I said, hey, they're getting, I'm gonna go get David, get Karen, get her to the house and go, and everything's shutting down. But
did you go get Mr. Swift?
yes, I think I went and got him. But he was close. Like I said, it wasn't a really big house, so the whole thing's pretty much open to itself.
Okay. So did he come in and take care of Karen?
As far as I know, I wasn't in there, when that happened that I can remember. But, everyone else was leaving. And
okay. Did Mr. Swift's attitude change after that evening?
Well, I don't necessarily know it was changed because I really didn't have any conversation with him. I made it a point not to have any conversation with him because I was uncomfortable. And to be honest with you, we invited them to the party because Kathy and Karen were good friends, and that's why they were invited, being cordial. But I really didn't have any interaction with him.
Okay. Were there other parties at your house after that?
No. We had a couple to come over, go out to dinner, but as far as a party that was something that people were invited to,
okay.
No.
Was there another time that individuals were at the house and got into the hot tub that Miss Swift was there?
I'm sure, yes. What you're referring to is the time, that they were in the Lee, Brian and Shannon Lee going out to dinner with us, and
yes.
They were there. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. That's what I'm talking about. Was Mr. Swift present that night?
He wasn't at first, and he wasn't invited, and he wasn't welcome. But
okay, why was he not welcome?
My wife and I were uncomfortable with him.
Okay.
It's the best I can tell you. We were not interested in a friendship, so with him.
All right, understand. Tell me what happened that night.
We were having conversation and, just regular night, and it wasn't really late. If I can remember right, we went out and had dinner and came back, and Kathy had gone to bed and retired and gone upstairs to bed, and the night was getting longer. So I came in the living room there right off the deck, and was about asleep in a chair, and Mr. Swift burst into the door, there and startled me and asked where Karen was.
Did he knock on the door and ask to come in?
No, he didn't.
How did he come in?
He just opened the door and came in, and you know, in a loud voice asked me where Karen was. It kind of startled me, but I said, "Well, she's upstairs talking to Kathy."
What was his demeanor at that time?
He was agitated, I would say, but I would also say it really caught me off guard.
Okay. And what did he do?
He went upstairs and talked to them, I imagine, and then by the time I kind of shook my head and wiped my eyes, I thought, I don't like this, and I went to get out of the chair to go, ask him to leave, basically, and he came down the stairs and left.
Did he make any statements to you when he came down?
He did not to me.
How did he appear when he came down, as far as his attitude and demeanor?
I mean, he came down the stairs and left abruptly and left through the door, quickly enough where I couldn't even really get a word in edgewise, because I should have pressed that issue there. He wasn't welcome to our house. He basically was there trespassing, and I should have pressed that issue, but I didn't.
Okay. Do you know of any times after that Mr. Swift followed Miss Swift or checked her phones?
I don't personally know. I know she told me that, but seeing it happen, the only thing I know for sure is that she had told us after the phone, the older line that I'd given her to be able to speak with her attorney, when she told me that he has this number, and when she told me that, I pulled the records off the computer of the calls to that number, and there was 2 or 3 calls from what she said it was his phone number. Yes, that's it, to that phone.
Okay. So Mr. Swift had actually called the phone that you had loaned
Yes.
Miss Swift. Okay, and I'm going to get into that a little more in a few minutes. Did you know that Miss Swift had either filed for divorce or wanted to file for a divorce?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know if she had the money available to file for divorce?
She told us that she didn't.
Okay. And did you loan her any money?
After conversation with my wife and, her asking, yes, we did.
I'm going to hand you a document. Do you recognize that document?
Yes.
What is that?
It's basically a rudimentary promissory note that she was going to pay back, the money we had loaned her, and she was putting up a four-wheeler she had and said that was hers, that, to kind of secure it, because she wanted to pay us back more money, and I didn't want that and ask her to do that, so that's kind of what predicated us doing this.
Okay. And how much money did you loan Miss Swift?
$2,000.
Okay. And what was the date of that loan?
10/3.
Okay. And do you know what the purpose of the loan was?
For her to give to her attorney to file for divorce.
Okay. Would you make that an exhibit to your testimony, please?
Be admitted as number 14. Did you want it published to the jury or not?
No, sir, Your Honor. What we've shown is fine.
All right.
I've already taken.
You've been showing it?
I just showed it.
I missed it. I'm
I
sorry.
took it down, Your Honor.
I didn't see it. Had my head down.
Okay. Shortly after giving that loan, let me back up first. Did Ms. Swift repay any of that loan to you?
Yes, I think she had repaid $650 of it to us.
Okay. So that I take it that was in a fairly short period of time.
Oh yeah, in a week or two.
Okay. After loaning that money to Ms. Swift, did she go on a vacation with you? When I say
She did.
you, I mean you and your family.
Yes, she did. We'd had a vacation plan to Gulf Shores for many months and a condominium, but in a week or two before we went, another couple that was going to go with us with their children had to back out. So that happened like a week before we left. And so we had a 3-bedroom condominium with tons of space, and they went with us, her and her daughters.
Okay. Do you know why she wanted to go on that vacation?
She told us that she didn't want to be around when David was served the papers for divorce.
Okay.
And
did she tell Mr. Swift that she was taking the girls and going on this vacation?
as far as I know, no. That was I think that was the point, that she didn't want him to know, where she was or where she was going when he got served the papers.
Okay. And did she and the children stay with you and your family, or did they stay in that extra condo?
Well, they stayed. It was one big condo with three separate living areas. So they stayed in one of the separate living areas in the condo, her and her daughters.
Okay. Now, you started talking about a phone earlier, so I want to go back to that. Did you ever loan a phone to Miss Swift?
I did.
Okay. And do you remember what type phone it was?
It was a Voyager, I think is what they're called. It was like a little flip-up phone that had a keyboard underneath it, an older rudimentary phone.
Okay. Was it your phone, or why did you have an extra phone?
The history of the number was a year or two prior, it was one of my employees' phones that I'd bought for my employees. He left my employment, and our oldest son had turned 11 or 12, and we finally decided to let him have a phone. So it was his number for about 6 months, a year, and then we got him a new phone and a new number. So that line was active. I was paying for it because it was under contract, but it was just sitting there. So.
Okay. So you didn't go specifically buy a phone just to give to Miss Swift?
No, we had it, and the line was active and, paid for. I mean, she was discussing with us that she didn't know how she was going to talk to her attorney. And I said, well, I got a line, that I know I'm paying for that nobody has, and do anything with it. I don't mind if you use it.
Okay. All right. And do you know if Mr. Swift knew that she had that second phone?
She told me that he knew at some point in time, a week or so, a short time after she had it. And when she told me that, I pulled up my records, my phone records, and I can see the calls that were going there. And, I said, was this the number? And she said, yes, that's the number, so.
Okay, so you were actually able to verify that Mr. Swift's phone number had called that second phone that you loaned Miss Swift?
Yes.
Okay, and was that prior to the Halloween party on October 29th?
Yes.
Okay, on October 29th of 2011, did you and your wife attend a Halloween party at the farms?
Yes.
Okay, and did Miss Swift attend that party also?
Yes.
Did Mr. Swift attend the party?
No, not that I know of, not with us.
Okay. Did Miss Swift meet you there, or did she come to your house and go? How did that happen?
She was at our house, and her and my wife got ready, and then when I got home, we went together.
Okay.
She went with us from our house over to the farm.
Okay. All right. Do you remember about what time you arrived at that party?
We weren't the first ones in the door. But it was probably 7 or 8. It wasn't late. It was early on.
Okay. All right. And while you were at the party, were you around Miss Swift most of the night?
Some of the night. There was a lot of people there at the party, and we were just generally mingling, but, we weren't, I'd say maybe 15, 20% of the time, maybe we were in close proximity,
Okay. Did you see Miss Swift dancing with anyone that night?
Didn't see her dancing with anyone specifically. She danced with my wife, and, in a big group setting dance. That's kind of what everybody was doing. But No.
Not one individual person?
No.
Okay. Did you see her have an argument with anyone that night?
No.
Did she seem like anything was out of ordinary that night?
Not at the party or anything, no.
Okay. Do you remember what time you left the party?
It was somewhere midnight, maybe a little bit later. You know, it wasn't late. I mean, we typically don't ever stay out any later than that, so that's, you know,
Okay.
it was probably around 12:30, if I had to guess.
Okay. Do you remember what you did after leaving the party?
Yeah, we went to McDonald's through the drive-thru and got some French fries, and then we returned to our home.
Okay. Do you know if Miss Swift had plans for the following morning? She had something planned that she was going to do?
She had told us that she had to finish cleaning a house in Mason Hall for a Habitat for Humanity she'd been working on.
Okay. And after getting back to your house, did you sit around for a while? Did she leave immediately? What happened?
We just got back to the house and, you know, basically starting to shut it down for the night, and her and Kathy were in the living room, just had conversation. And then she came, you know, got up and said, "Hey, I'm going to leave. That my daughter was at a sleepover and something had happened there, and she was going to get her and to go home."
Okay. And do you recall about what time that was?
It had to be around 1 o'clock or so, if I had to guess. I mean, just the timing of it had to be probably around 1.
Okay. And after Miss Swift left your house that night, well, let me ask you this first before I get into that. Did you see Miss Swift drink any alcohol that night?
I'm sure I saw her with a beer in her hand at some point in time. Yes.
Okay. Were you concerned about her driving? Did you ask her anything about that?
When she was going to leave, I asked her multiple times, you know, are you sure you're okay to drive? You know, and she assured me she was, and it did not seem to me that she was impaired, bad with her wits about her, and, you know, her daughter had called and she was going to get her. It wasn't going to really matter, but, you know, I asked.
But the reason you asked the question was because you knew she had
Yeah,
something?
yes.
Okay. Did you hear from Miss Swift again after she left your house at 1 that morning?
No.
Okay. The next morning, October 30th of 2011, do you remember what you did that morning?
We got up and went to church.
Okay.
And then went to eat at not a China Star, the other restaurant, Chinese restaurant there in Dyersburg.
Okay.
Buffet.
Did you or Miss Bona attempt to contact Miss Swift?
She did. I think she sent her some text and said she hadn't heard from her.
Okay. Never was able to get in contact with her?
No.
What happened after that? Were you concerned, or was
I think our conversation was at lunch that she hadn't heard from her, but we thought that she was probably over at Mason Hall cleaning this house.
okay?
You know, I remember we had that conversation, and I said she's probably over at Mason Hall cleaning that house, because that's what her plans were, at least for what she told us.
Okay. Was there a time that you became concerned?
Yes, we came home from eating lunch, and then when I was basically walking out the door to go to a high school football practice, and my wife was sitting at the top of the stairs in our office area and said, "Hey," her phone, I guess her phone rang. Said, "Hey, this is David calling me." And I said, "Well, answer it." And she called and talked to him, and I stood there and waited and listened. And
was the phone on? Do you recall if she had it on the speakerphone or if?
Yeah, I mean, I could hear the conversation, for the most part, and
okay. And what did you hear?
That I heard that her car, he hadn't seen her all morning, and then her car was out on the side of the road down with a flat tire, and abandoned basically, and she wasn't there. And had we seen her? That's what he asked, and Quick had said, "No, I've been texting her and I haven't seen her."
Okay. What'd you do at that point?
Well, I mean, with the car being there and the whole situation, the way it was and the way we felt about things, I stood there right there while they were on the phone, and I called the sheriff's department and asked, did they have any kind of record or problem going on with that car out there, with that flat tire?
Okay. What was your purpose of calling the sheriff's department?
I mean, we were concerned about where she was.
Okay. Were you concerned that she may have been arrested?
I've had employees over the years in the past that have gotten in trouble, and I've had to call the sheriff's department just to try to track them down to see if something had happened with them. So, I knew I knew that I could call, and if that was a possibility, that at least we would know where she was. But I mean, I was genuinely concerned about the whole situation.
What was the primary purpose of the phone call?
To locate her.
Okay. After calling the sheriff's department, do you know if Mr. Swift had called the sheriff's department prior to you doing that?
I don't know that.
Okay. What'd you do after making that phone call?
Kathy and I drove out to where the car was.
Okay. Did you drive together or separate?
No, we drove separate. Because even on the way out there, we thought, well, maybe she's over at Mason Hall, and I'll go over there and check that. So we drove separate out there.
Okay. When you arrived at the car, was anyone else there?
No.
Just you and your wife?
Yeah, when we arrived there, and shortly after we got there, Mr. Rollins pulled up where Ashley was spending the night before, and he pulled up too.
Who was that?
Mr. Rollins.
Okay. So he was the next person to arrive?
Yes.
Okay. Did Mr. Swift arrive while you were there?
No.
Okay. And how far was the car from Miss Swift's house?
Around the corner. I mean, couldn't have been much more than a quarter mile maybe.
Okay. Was it close enough that she could have walked home?
Oh, yes.
Did you notice anything about the car?
Well, we looked at the flat tire at that point, and then Mr. Rollins was there with me, and immediately saw it was sheet metal screw, sticking out of the tire 2 or 3 inches.
Okay. Did anyone else arrive while you were there?
No.
Okay. So what did you do next?
At that point, I told Kathy and Mr. Rollins, I said, well, I'm going to go to Mason Hall, and hopefully she is just there cleaning this house and doing what what she planned to do. So I left and drove to Mason Hall.
Okay. And did you make it to that house?
Yes, made to the house. I talked to the neighbors behind it that they're out in the yard and asked them if they'd seen her that day. And they, said no, she'd been here the last couple of days, but we haven't seen her today.
Okay. Do you know if Miss Swift had a voicemail on her cell phone?
I don't know that.
Okay. After Miss Swift was missing, did you do anything to try to help locate Miss Swift?
Yeah, well, I mean, Kathy and I, kind of just haywire, kind of drove here and there, and she had done some landscaping, and got some rocks out by the Mississippi River for us, and then at some point in time we had heard that her cell phone pinged out there close to the Mississippi River, so, I mean, we drove down to that area, just kind of not with any real plan, just kind of wanting to try to do something to help locate her.
Okay. And do you know if Mr. Swift made any attempts to locate his wife?
I didn't have any contact with him, so I don't know. After that phone call with my wife, I didn't have any contact with him or anything.
And Mr. Bona, you've told us about your relationship with Miss Swift. Did you have a romantic relationship with Miss Swift?
No.
Your Honor, may I have just a moment? Your Honor, we'll pass the witness.
Good morning, Mr. Bona.
Good morning.
Can I ask you a few questions?
Yes, sir.
All right. You were interviewed by law enforcement at some point in the days after Karen Swift was missing.
Yes,
You talked with them and answered questions.
I did.
That was when it was fresh, I guess, on your mind.
Yes,
All right. This has been several years later here today.
yes,
Okay. Would you mind?
yes.
A little hard hearing, sir. You gave Karen Swift a second phone so she didn't have to communicate with her husband.
I gave her the phone to be able to communicate with her attorney.
And you knew she was married at the time.
Yes,
You had the ability to look at the records on Karen Swift's phone, the one you gave her.
yes,
So you kept up, if you wanted to, with who she's calling and who's contacting her.
no.
You had access to the records.
I had access to all the records. I had probably 11 phones at that time on me, so I had access, but
But you had access to the records, so you could see, if you wanted to, who she was calling or who was calling her on the phone you gave her.
yes,
All right. You knew that she had phone calls with Jamie Guerin?
I did not know that.
Okay. Thomas Haynes?
I did not know that.
You know who Thomas Haynes is?
I do not.
All right. On Kathy's 40th birthday, y'all had a party,
Yes.
involved a hot tub.
The party was at the farms. After the party at the house.
Right.
Yes,
Y'all invited people back to your house.
yes,
All right. Several people came.
yes,
Okay. The people that were in the hot tub, everyone's in the hot tub half with clothes and half without clothes. Do you recall saying that to law enforcement when they asked you?
that's what I remember, yes.
All right. And is that the occasion where a lot of people are drinking at this hot tub thing?
There wasn't much drinking going on at this point. I mean, we didn't have drinks at our house to supply, so if they were, it was something they brought from the party themselves, but it was kind of an impromptu thing. You know, it wasn't planned, you know, so.
Now, that was the occasion, the hot tub party after the 40th birthday party, when you say that Karen got up out of the hot tub and went and laid down in the nude?
I said I saw her in the living room. I don't know what transpired before then. I didn't see her get out or see her leave the hot tub. I just found her there.
And then you went up to where she was.
I was walking through the living room, and yes, you know, opening the door, people were starting to leave, and she was there.
You and Karen were in the same room by yourselves.
Yes,
All right. Miss Alford walks in while you're in there with Kathy. Excuse me, Karen.
I turned around to go get a towel or find her, and she was there. You know,
Miss
I'm like,
Alford?
yes, and
Okay.
and that's so. Like I said, the room is open. It's open to the next room. It's all open.
All right. And did you state when you talked to law enforcement that Karen was passed out drunk?
I don't remember the conversation. I'm sure it's there, but I mean, she was asleep, so, you know, from what I could see. So that would have been a deduction, yes.
All right. And did you state to law enforcement when you were interviewed on October 31st that I threw a big towel on her and so you can take it or leave it, whatever you want to do?
I don't remember saying that exactly, but I mean, I don't recall.
Okay. You did throw a big towel on her?
From what I remember, I thought that I asked Robin to get a towel and left the room, but maybe she had one with her. I do not recall exactly, but that was the purpose, to get her covered up.
You did answer a lot of questions back then for the law enforcement officers.
That was uncomfortable, and that was a situation, that we felt like we were treated kind of unfairly in, but yes.
By law enforcement?
Yes.
Because when they brought you in, they read you your rights?
No, they asked us to come in. I mean, we had been to the police station multiple times voluntarily, trying to find her, trying to explain to them that something is not right here.
Right, but when you went in on October the 31st, didn't they advise you before you started this interview of your Miranda rights?
No.
That's not true?
No, I didn't. They were there. We were there to talk. I don't remember that.
Okay. If I could, can I pass this to you and ask you to look at this?
Sure. Okay.
Does that have a date on it, sir, of October 31st, 2011?
It does.
All right. Can I ask you to look at, I guess, page 3, and just read it to yourself to refresh your memory, just that top part, and then when you're done, just look up, sir. Does that refresh your memory?
I'm sure I said this, but I don't remember specifically saying it, but I mean, it's here, so.
Were you, after looking at that, can I ask you, does that refresh your memory? Weren't you advised of your Miranda rights?
I don't remember that, but if it's here, I may have. The purpose for us going in is they asked for our DNA, so, I mean, and we had no problem providing that, so then it led into this, so, I mean, I guess I did.
Okay. I asked you about a guy from Union City named Mr. Tom Hardy. Do you recall me asking that just a moment ago?
I remember you asking the name. Now,
You remember a guy from Union City?
I remember a guy from Union City. Yes, I didn't remember his name.
And you remember him calling or having contact with Karen?
Looking at this, remember what the context of this is that we had brought in those phone records, and I'm sure we went through them, saying, even with Karen herself, whose number is this, and this is David's number.
And that may have been one of the numbers that you answered?
If I've got it here, then like I said, the records will show that's it. I guess, I don't remember the name specifically.
All right, on page 24, would you go there? On paragraph 18, you see the numbers down the side. Just look at that and see if that refreshes your memory.
Okay.
Did you tell them a guy named Tom from Union City?
I'm sure I told him that, but I didn't. If I knew that, I knew that through Kathy telling me,
All right.
you know, or maybe Karen telling me.
Well, let me ask this. Didn't you and your wife take Karen to a concert in Caruthersville, a Kansas concert?
Yes, we all went together.
And isn't that where Karen met Tom in your presence?
She didn't meet him in my presence. We were there together, but there was a long, there was a lot of time at the concert before that we weren't together. I don't ever remember meeting this person or seeing him.
Well, let me ask you this. On page 24, the same page, paragraph 14, would you look at that, just refresh your memory, and then let me ask you about it?
Okay.
Back then, didn't you tell the officers in your interview that you and your wife took Karen to a Kansas concert in Caruthersville?
That's what it says, yes.
Right. And this is you answering questions to law enforcement?
Yes.
All right. And then it was in the row right in front of us in the bar that night, a guy named Tom from Union City and Karen met or together. Did you say that?
I'm sure I said it if it's here. I don't remember saying it, but it's not surprising I won't remember. I was, terribly flustered in this situation, answering all these questions. So I'm sure it's here. I'm sure I said it.
And didn't you also tell law enforcement that Karen and this guy named Tom flirted around a little bit and then got to know each other there on the top of page 25?
I'm sure that's what I said, but like I said, I do not ever. We never sat with the person or conversated. I don't ever remember seeing him. So
I'm showing you the transcript from the interview.
Well, I'm sure it's true if it's on this transcript. Yeah, I don't remember, but I'm sure it's.
All right. Let me just go back to just a couple things. Regarding finding Karen laying naked and then you going up to her, didn't you say she was just laying there, and about nothing on her? I threw a big towel on her so you can take it or leave it, whatever you want to do, in response to law enforcement officers.
I'm sure I said that because, like I said, I felt at that point that I was being accused of something, so I was pretty agitated during this interview.
And didn't you also tell law enforcement that, I don't know if David fabricated it or Robin said it, about what happened?
If that's here on
Page 23.
Yeah, if that's here, I'm sure that's what I said. I don't remember me specifically saying that, but
Page 23, if you want to refresh your memory.
yeah, if it's here, I'm sure I said it. I mean, if this is accurate, so.
All right. Did you also tell law enforcement during that interview that you were aware that Karen had a friend from Little Rock who was married and had kids?
What page is that on?
Page 24.
It's here, so I'm sure I said that.
All right. Let me just move through. All right. Regarding Tom, did you tell law enforcement in that interview that you heard about conversations with Tom and Karen up to the Halloween party that Saturday night that afterwards she went missing?
What page is that on?
Page 25.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure it's there at the bottom, yeah.
Does that refresh your memory?
I'm sorry, not really. I don't remember exactly, but it's here, so I'm sure it's accurate.
But did you tell law enforcement that during the interview?
Like I said, I'm sure I did. I don't remember specifically if I wasn't looking at this, but it's here and this is accurate, so I'm sure I did.
All right. Let me just back up a little bit. After your wife's 40th birthday party, and you put a towel over Karen, and Robin came in while you were in the room alone with Karen, did Robin Alford come back again to your house after that date?
No.
Okay. And were you aware that that caused problems with the Swifts?
Yes. I mean, because evidently she stated that.
And Robin Alford also caused problems with you and your wife and Robin Alford?
No, well, I mean, I knew Robin. I wasn't really, friends with her any closer than anybody else. But yeah, once that was said and my wife found out that was said, then yes, that caused problems because that was something that was untrue.
And Miss Alford didn't come over again?
Not that I know of, no.
All right. And after that, sometime, you said that there was another occasion where Karen was at the house and other people, the Lees, were at the house. Is that correct?
Yes.
And this is sometime after the 40th birthday party?
Yeah, it would have been pretty soon after, yeah.
And people were in the hot tub again?
Yes, the people that were there.
All right. People were in various stages of being dressed or undressed?
Yes, I wouldn't imagine. I'm trying to remember exactly.
Some people were just naked?
I don't remember particularly anybody being that way, but I'm trying to remember, and it wouldn't, it wouldn't surprise me if there was, but I don't remember exactly.
Okay. You're saying David Swift walked in to your house and went to looking for his wife?
Yes, he came in the back door off the patio, yes.
All right. He walked in.
Yes.
There wasn't a fight or a struggle?
No, there wasn't a knock. There wasn't anything. He opened my door at my house and walked in.
Did you hear him ask for Karen?
He asked did I know where she was, yes.
All right. Was this late at night?
Yes. Well, I mean, late for us. It was probably 10 or 11 if I had to guess.
All right. And he went upstairs?
I told him that she was upstairs talking to Kathy, yes.
Yeah. You answered his question. And
Yes.
he went upstairs to find his wife.
Yes.
And as he went up the stairs, your wife, Kathy, was with Karen in the bed.
I wasn't there, but yes, she had gone to bed sometime before my wife had.
And that Karen was in the bed with your wife, not having all of her clothes on.
I wasn't up there. I didn't ever see that. So I don't know.
And you saw David Swift come back down.
Yes, I heard them have an argument and then, quickly and then come back down the stairs and leave.
You heard him say, "Are you going to come home?"
I heard him yelling at her. I don't particularly, what are you doing and that type of thing. And
then he walked back down.
yeah, he came back down the stairs and left.
He just walked out and left.
Yes.
You told the police that when they interviewed you that day that David had never threatened you.
No.
And that y'all had never had a fight.
We never did, no.
And you had never observed David Swift having a fight with anybody in your house.
No, the 2 times he was ever present there, no.
When Karen's iPhone the phone that she normally used? Did it ever go out of service because she didn't pay her bill?
I have no idea.
Did you previously give her that phone to use before?
Not before this one time, no.
And this was some months before she went missing?
I'm sure the bill would show it was after the contact with the attorney. So I would guess that it was sometime around the 1st of October. That's, you know.
And you and your wife helped Karen Swift to arrange to divorce her husband.
We loaned her that money.
And you furnished her a mechanism to leave town with her daughters that week, didn't you?
She went on vacation with us with her children.
And she brought the 2 children.
Yes.
And you were aware that David Swift didn't know where she went when she went with you or where his daughters went that day?
Yes.
Were you aware that Karen Swift was going to spend the night with you after the Halloween party?
Through my wife, I think that from what she told me, that was the plan, that, you know, she was going to stay there and pick up Ashley in the morning.
And that plan changed when her daughter called her.
Yes.
And to your knowledge, David Swift didn't know about that because Karen Swift didn't tell you she was calling and going home before her daughter called.
No.
When the officers, they ask you a lot of questions and you said it made you feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
The officers ask you if you and your wife were swingers and had orgies at your house, didn't they?
Yes.
And you answered them, didn't you?
Yes.
In fact, didn't you answer them? Not that offends me. Didn't you tell the officers that? You know, like I said, it's not something that we ain't talked about as a couple before. So I'm not shy about discussing it, you know, that kind of stuff. Isn't that how you responded to the officers?
If that's how it was there, I remember at that point in the conversation, I didn't understand where the question was going, and I was agitated. I was trying to get out of that, you know, wanted to get out of that room at that point because I didn't understand what the line of questioning was.
Can I ask you to look at page 56 and refresh your memory?
Yes.
Didn't you respond that way to the officers when they asked you that question?
If this is accurate, I'm sure I did.
Now, let me ask you, Karen Swift left your house, you and Kathy were at your house when her daughter called.
Yes.
You were aware that she was taking her daughter and going home, and it was a change of plans
Yes.
because Karen planned on spending the night with y'all.
Yes.
And Karen went to the party, and I guess y'all did too, in costumes or outfits.
Yes.
It was a Halloween party.
Yes.
And Karen had an outfit that she wore.
I don't remember it being an outfit. I mean, if I remember right, it was a black dress or a black skirt, and she had just like a party mask, like a Mardi Gras mask. That was it.
And boots?
I'm not really sure what kind of shoes she had on. But
Okay. Well, then that's fair. And then she left,
yes.
and it was after midnight.
Yes.
And the next morning, you're present when David Swift calls your wife to ask if you both know where Karen is.
In the afternoon, yes, not in the morning.
Okay. And you're not exactly sure what time it is?
It was right there before 2 o'clock. I was leaving the house at 2 to go to where I needed to go, and it was a little bit before 2 is what I remember.
But y'all didn't call him first. He called you.
That's correct.
Out of concern looking for his wife.
He called us, that's correct.
And then, based on that, and he also is the one that told you where he heard her car was located, or knew where her car was located. He
Yes.
gave you that information.
Yes,
And then based on that is why you went to the car, you and your wife.
yes.
And you live how far from the Swift home?
10 miles maybe?
Okay. And I guess before you got there, you don't know who had been at the car or who had not been at the car, right?
No.
Okay. And you pull up and you get out and the officer arrives.
No. The officer did not arrive while I was there.
Okay. And you don't know if they had been there before or before y'all arrived first.
I don't know who was there before we arrived, no.
And y'all stood around the car and talked to the officers.
Yeah, I wasn't there when the officers came.
Were you there when the officers came?
No,
I mean-
I'd left.
Okay. You and your wife had left.
No, I'd left.
Okay. Your wife stayed and you left.
Yes.
And did you go to, is it Trimble or Mason Hall? Looking for her.
It's one of those places. It may be in between. It's a little community right there. Trimble, Mason Hall, right there in that area.
Okay. And then you were gone for a period of time and then you come back to where the car is?
Yes.
Okay. And obviously you don't know who had come and gone during when you had left
No.
or before you and your wife got to the car originally.
No.
And you're saying at some point you looked at the tire and saw a nail sticking out
A screw.
several inches,
Yes.
and you talked to the officers, and then you saw David Swift also.
No.
You see him? When
I
you,
did not. I was not present when David was there with the officer and my wife. No.
Okay. And when you come back to the car, law enforcement became more active.
Yeah. When I got back to the car, the sheriff's deputy was coming back out, from their residence, from what he told us.
Okay. And you don't know who the officer was.
It was the sheriff's deputy. I don't know him by name, no.
And you were aware he came from the Swift home.
Yes, that's what he said.
Okay. And did y'all stay there for a period of time and then eventually go home?
We left pretty well after that. He came back and he had come from there and we left.
The next day is when law enforcement spoke to you and your wife.
That wasn't the next day. If I remember correctly now, this happened a period of a week or two later when they called and asked us if we provide our DNA. And we said, sure. That's when this happened.
Now, she went missing October the 30th of 2011.
Yes.
That Sunday.
Yes, that's when the Sunday is when we went out and looked at her car, yes.
And can I ask you to look at the transcript about your interview?
What page you got?
Top the cover.
Okay.
Is it dated that Monday, October the 31st?
It is. I don't remember it that way, but I thought we gave this interview when we came in and gave our DNA.
But you may have come back in and been re-interviewed and given DNA on that date.
I really remember that's when this long interview process came. We came in on the 31st and we talked in one of the rooms to one of the sheriffs, just cordially, the two of us. But won't necessarily agree with this date in this instance because that interview did not happen that day. That interview happened the day that we gave DNA. I'm pretty sure.
Sir, is it possible with the passage of time you just may have gotten the date mixed up?
No, because I remember this interview. It was really uncomfortable for my wife and I both. I remember it extensively, and
Was it uncomfortable for you because you thought you were being accused of things?
yeah, we don't operate in this world. We've never been a part of anything like this, and it was very uncomfortable and unsettling. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Redirect?
Yes, sir. Mr. Bona, did you make Karen Swift get a divorce?
No.